Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, I also hope you're watching House of the Dragon, because if you're not, turn off now, because there's some spoilers here. Episode 3 has come out now, episode 3. Now, I'm not going to really massively review that episode per se. I'm going to give kind of an overview about the whole thing so far and how much I'm loving it. And I think it's fantastic. I was gripped from the first episode. I loved the second episode. And this one is better again. It hit the ground running, as I said previously. And it's kept that momentum. It's kept the intrigue, the skullduggery, the sense of a much bigger picture. So many characters being involved, lots of things coming into play, potential wars, lots of, oh, we've got to marry the daughter off, we've got to get, a new heir to the throne, but it must be a male, it's got to be a lad. No, Viserys says, no, it's going to be my daughter. After losing his wife and his son during a horrible breech birth, and then a horrible sort of medieval C-section taking place, he's left with only his daughter, whose name I always forget how to pronounce. It's written down here. Rhaenyra Targaryen. Rhaenyra, Ran whatever. And she's played by an incredibly good and talented, fantastic young actress called Millie Alcock. And I've loved her performances throughout the three episodes so far. We know that kind of like midway through the series, it's going to change to a much older girl playing her because obviously the time shift. And we've had time shifts already in the first few episodes. It's been 2 years since episode 2 to episode 3. And in that meantime, Viserys, played excellently by Paddy Considine, now has a new wife who happens to be another princess, her uncle's daughter, so whatever that relationship that is. What's her name? Alison, I've got it written down here somewhere. Alicent Hightower, played by Emily Carey. Now Emily Carey looks older than Millie Alcock in these episodes, and yet she's actually younger. I think she reached the age of, I think she's 19 now, or thereabouts, but she was 17 when she started filming it. And then she marries Paddy Considine, who was like 48 or something like that. And she was a bit dubious about that, but apparently it all worked out great, because they're both fans of that RuPaul drag race thing, so that's how they got on well together. But the sort of the sisterhood of young teen girls between Rhaenyra and Alicent, because Rhaenyra is the king's daughter, and Alicent is she's another princess, but she's not heir to the throne. She's not actually part of that inner circle sort of thing, but she's right up there, and she's Rhys Ifans' daughter. And the two of them have got on so well throughout the first 2 episodes. But then at the end of episode 2, the bombshell is, look, even though you've lost your wife, Viserys, Paddy Considine, you've got to take a wife. You've got to. And you've got to bring the houses together. Take one of the wealthiest families. Take their daughter. And it's dead iffy, because it's also true to what medieval life was like. They were like 11, 12 and 13, 14 years old, these girls, that these men were meant to be taking as their wives to keep the bloodline pure and all that. Oh yeah, feudal times. So he's got to choose someone, and they all think they know who it's going to be. And the bombshell at the end of episode 2 was like, he's going to marry Alicent, which is Otto Hightower's daughter, Rhys Ifans. And they're like, what? And because what is it? Rhaenyra. She's been growing up with this girl, and that's obviously going to make things difficult. She's been made heir to the throne after losing my son, and everyone expecting to have another take another wife and sire some sons who are going to be the proper male heir to the throne. He's gone like completely against that. No, Rhaenyra is going to be the heir to the throne, and I'm going to stick by this. He tells her the secrets of, like, how they can keep dragons and all this sort of stuff, and it's really, just, we don't control them. We don't. Everyone thinks we do, but just keep that quiet. We just got lucky with them. They like us for the time being, but let's just use that. Don't tell anyone. We've got no real control over them whatsoever. And so that he takes this opportunity. Like, look, I know I've got to do what the sovereign's got to do. The monarch has to do. I've got duties. I've got to cement my position. I've got to forge alliances and just keep the bloodline going. All of that blab. But I'm going to marry Alicent. So how does that make things difficult for the two girls growing up together? Suddenly they were busy mates, and now they're busy mates. The Queen? What? And obviously at the end of episode 2, Rhaenyra just storms out. But you don't really know what her feelings are. Episode 3 comes around. It was great. It was great. Had everything. Intrigue, historical, Renaissance, feudal banquets, a hunting session, action, and then the final sort of third of it was carnage, absolute carnage. Had everything thrown into it, and you saw the weird relationship now that Rhaenyra has with Alicent. Alicent is now basically her stepmother, and her mate, once busy mate, most trusted confidant, is now her queen and stepmother. And she's given birth. In the 2 years in between, she's given birth to Aegon. It's a little blonde muppet. Those Targaryens and their blonde hair. So you've got that little scrote who everyone's going to think is heir to the throne. But also, Alicent's pregnant again. There's another kid on the way. So poor old Rhaenyra is just in a really difficult place. Where do I stand now in this whole thing? In the scheme of things, the royal family. Yeah, I'm the princess, but I'm meant to be heir to the throne. But everyone now thinks that Aegon's going to get that, not me. So I'm superfluous now. And in the meantime, other houses are trying to, get in there. And obviously Viserys knows this. That people want to marry his daughter, Rhaenyra. And there's a few potential suitors there who are trying it on, showing off, boasting a bit, like giving pops great big spears, as gifts. And by the way, my house is very rich. We've got one of the highest towers, in Westeros, higher than yours, of course, and all this kind of bullshit, like. So you've got all this going on, and she's not happy with this. I don't want to be just wedded off. I'm not just some sort of trophy, just to make you happy. So in a great sequence, they have this, there's a huge part of the early first half of this episode is the hunt. Viserys is not in a good place either. Although he's got his new wife, he can't replace his old wife. He loved her, and part of him died when she died, and he had to make the decision as well. Look, when all the midwives are trying to save the baby or save her, they realise a choice has got to be made, and they've heard about this from other lands, that there is a way of getting the baby out, but it's going to result in the mother's death, but we can get the baby out. So one or the other, your choice, king. So he says, well, try it, and the poor queen dies in literally bloody agony, and but the baby dies as well. So the whole thing went massively arse about face, and so he's distraught. Although he's married again, he's in a very, very bad place. And I think Paddy Considine is absolutely awesome in this role. It's a very, very sad role that he's playing, and he's doing it really, really well. We know from his Twitter account and all that he's having he had a ball doing this. He's really enjoying being in the whole Game of Thrones empire and this world, this milieu, and he's having a great time. But that doesn't come across on the screen because he's totally miserable as hell. he does keep trying to make amends with his daughter. He's trying to say to her, look, you know the scheme of things. You know that I had to marry. I had to. I've got to keep the bloodline going. I've got to provide heirs. I've got to do this. I've got to solidify the empire, bring certain houses together, because we're always going to be under threat. And without a wife, I make the kingdom more vulnerable. So I've got to do all this. And you see the pain that he's in. Paddy Considine is a great actor. He really does convey it so well. I'm not so fussed on his blonde wig though. It seems very, very severe. Very sort of like we've just added this to the top of your head and like the wig down the back and all that. But I think he's wonderful in the role. It's vastly different from what you've seen in Game of Thrones. He's a very sort of tragic king, a very tragic ruler, very isolated, very cut off, very. He's controlling his emotions, although they do seep out sometimes. When you realise that people are just trying to look, I'm giving you this spear so you can take out the white-headed stag, on this big hunt. And they've sent men out to try and find this and track it down and bring it to bear. And then all he's got to do is just go up with this bloody big spear and just stab it a couple of times. We'll come on to that though. But these guys, these suitors, are just trying their damnedest, just to win him over, get favour. And the whole thing about being married off just for the sake of building alliances and solidifying your position, your empire, it's grotesque. It's politics. It's all it is. And like Paddy Considine's Viserys does come out with a line, I'm so fucking sick of all that politics. And it's, aren't we all? Mate, aren't we all? This is why Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon actually do feel really relevant in the big grand scheme of things. Today, when I'm recording this, the Conservative, the Tory party, finally got rid of Boris Johnson, and after like the hustings and all that kind of shit, where the infighting and trying to find a new party leader, in other words, a new Prime Minister, that's finally been announced. Liz Truss is now the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Ooh. And but you see the parallels with all the infighting in real life politics. It's totally there. It's been throughout history with all ruling governments, monarchies, empires. It's always been the same: backstabbing bastards, lies, deceit, skullduggery. And you get that in Game of Thrones, and you're getting it in House of the Dragon. But the one true guy that I totally believe in is genuinely Viserys. He knows what he has to do, and he's going along with it, but massively reluctantly. And at the end of this, he basically does say to Rhaenyra, I will never get her name right, never. And he said, look, despite everything, I still love you. I'm not going to force any marriage upon you. Please, go out there and find the man that you think is right. Please do that. I'm not going to force anything on you. You go and find the right man for you, and you're still heir to the Iron Throne. It's a wonderful moment, because she's been struck with so much indecision and sort of her own isolation. She's lost her confidence, because her confidence now become her queen and stepmother. Not happy about that. That's awkward, to say the least. And seeing sprogs being delivered left, right and centre, and especially male ones, oh dear God. So in a great sequence, she gets literally royally pissed off with the whole affair. And it's the day of the big hunt. They're out in the sticks. Westeros looks fantastic. The visuals are exemplary in this show. I will say it's a bit cleaner looking than Game of Thrones was. Game of Thrones was a bit grimy, a bit dirtier, but it does look, it is the Game of Thrones empire and world. But you're seeing different angles of the kingdom, different angles of Westeros and King's Landing and all of that. You're seeing all these different views of forests and lovely sort of wooded areas, and this huge encampment a pure Renaissance reenactor's dream come true. They're all there, and they send out all the beaters, as you'd call them, to go and find this white-headed stag. They don't find it. They find, oh, sorry, Your Grace, we couldn't find the white-headed one, but we got this one's a big boy. It's just a normal stag, composed of pure CG, of course. And he has to go and kill it. He has to kill it with this bloody spear that this guy who wanted to marry Rhaenyra, that is given to him. And he's seen right through this guy. He's put him in his place, but he's got to use his spear. And he has it's a strange moment that they put a couple of steps so he can get off his horse and go onto these steps to climb down properly. I mean, he's not even that old. Yeah, I'm not sure how old he's meant to be, but he still looks fit enough to get off a horse properly. But anyway, we know he's got a big seeping wound on his back. So in episode 1, they're trying to fix that. He's also got a bit of a bad finger as well, which in episode 2 they were putting this digit into a big pool of maggots to try and clean off the dead flesh, and that finger's been bandaged up. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but there's some. I mean, people who've read the initial books, they will know this. Maybe, I don't know, unless it's been added. I've no idea. But so he's got some ailments anyway. But they put these steps up, and he gets off the horse, and they give him the spear, and this poor bloody beast. There's about 10 men holding it down, and it's still it's struggling. Pretty big antlers everywhere, and they're going look, Your Grace, if you just stab there, just there, should do it. And he's like, and it's a really powerful moment. I genuinely thought throughout that sequence that he was going to cut the bonds that they're holding it by and set it free. I really thought it was going to happen. I don't know why, what his game plan would be with that, but he doesn't do it. He does thrust, he does stab, but he misses the crucial target, the heart, and it's struggling, it's gasping, it's bleeding everywhere. And this guy comes up and goes like, Your Grace, if you just try again, just maybe there. Oh, it's horrible. And he finally kills it, but you can see something has changed in him again. He didn't want to do it. I don't think he knows why he's doing it. I think he's questioning the whole point of all the politicking and all the traditions and the cultures of why he's in charge. If I've got this power, why have I still got to do what you bastards all say to me? All the High Council and all this, and the hand of the king and all this. Why have I got to do what you say? Can't I make the rules up? So, Paddy Considine, wonderful. Great scenes, very powerful, and quietly devastating. What's her name? Millie Alcock playing Rhaenyra is magnificent. I know, I've seen it all. Everyone's saying she looks like Will Poulter. She does, actually. She does. I can't deny it. But I think she's terrific. And she's 22, so she's actually older than the girl who's playing the Queen and her mother. But go figure. But there's a great moment where she wavers, and she's pissed off with all this. Like, I don't want to be you arranging things for me. And she gets on a horse. Now, it can't be her. It can't be Millie Alcock doing this. But whoever it is, it looks good. And she storms out the camp, and she's going at blistering, pace, full pelt, stampede, gallop. And she's already chosen her bodyguard. And her bodyguard is, I forgot his bloody name. It's Sir Criston Cole. Sir Criston Cole, played by Fabian Frankel. And he's great. And he takes off after her because it's his sworn job to protect her. And clearly there's going to be feelings between these two. And in this great sequence, she just storms off through the woods. He catches up with her. She's about to plunge into a huge lock, and he manages to grab the reins and stop her. And they calm down, and they think, "No, we should go back to the camp. We should go back. Not safe out here. But this is the King's Woods. Couldn't be any safer, could I? Especially with you by my side. It's going to be night soon. It's going to be a lovely evening. Let's stay out. It's only by the campfire." And they sit down, and everything's great. Bit of talky talks. You know where this is going to go. And Well, it doesn't go there right now, but you know where it's meant. It's seemingly meant to build up a romance. Anyway, the horses seem a bit skittish. What's going on there? So Kristen Cole gets up and with his sword, and it's a great shot as well, because if you look at it, he looks into the distance of the woods. It's night time now, and you see just some wavering sort of foliage just in the deep background, just going like that, very gently, a bit like these things here, which are just wafting slightly. And then I clocked it and I thought, oh, that's something coming towards him. It is subtle though, and if you look a bit closer to the mid-ground, something else just gently does that, and then you're aware of it then, and then something even closer, and you hear the rustling of hooves, and a great big fucking boar, big tusky boar comes out, squealing, and it skittles him, fucking sends him flying through the air, and then it goes for Rhaenyra, and oh my Christ, it's on it, it's spitting all over, it's drooling on it. It's a horrible sequence. You know, you think of DiCaprio in The Revenant being ravaged in more ways than one by that big grizzly bear. Well, this boar was about to have its way with Rhaenyra. And anyway, straight away, that's about to happen. A sword plunges through, blood just drenches Rhaenyra, and then they shove the carcass off. But it ain't dead. It suddenly comes back again, and Rhaenyra gets her own dagger out. Think Bill Duke in Predator, where he takes out the jungle boar, and he's going, I'll kill you. He thinks it's a predator. I'll kill you. And there's blood going everywhere, and this horrible shrieking, howling noise. And that's what she does to this boar as well. And she ends up drenched in its gore. It's a powerful sequence. And then they go back and dragging the boar's carcass behind them. But she keeps the blood on her face. I wish that scene went on for longer. It's daylight. She's been away for a night, and no one knows what's happened to her. And then you come back and she's drenched in gore, dragging a boar. and everyone, even the suitors that were after it, are kind of like, what the hell? But nothing's ever made of it though. I wish there was a bit more of that scene. I'm like, what the hell have you done there? Because then we do move on. It's a great sequence, and it clearly is building up a relationship between her and Sir Kristen Cole, which I think is great. But you know that's doomed. Kristen Cole beat Matt Smith, Prince Daemon, which is the king's brother. Beat him in the joust in episode 1. And even though he beat him, we all thought, as he turned his back on the defeated Daemon, that Daemon was going to get up and stab him in the back, or do what the Mountain did, to that, not Dothraki, whatever it was. The guy that ended up playing the Mandalorian and crushed his head. Oh, you think that was going to happen? Didn't. But clearly those two are going to be enemies at some point. Well, I think they were enemies to begin with, but there's a bit of repayment going to go on there. But then, I've mentioned Prince Daemon. We've had this whole thing about the Stepstones, the Stepstone Islands, and the Narrow Sea have been plagued by the crab feeder, he's actually a prince or a king, I'm not sure. He's not just a pirate, but he's been plaguing the Narrow Seas, and him and his army and his navy have destroyed fleets of pirates and any shipping, destroying the King's Landing trade routes. And you've had Prince Corlys, who's a genuine Viserion, and he's what's he called, the sea snake, the sea something, sea snake, I think so, something like that anyway. And he has a big proud navy, and he's been demanding that Viserys, we've got to fight this. That's an incursion onto our turf. You've got to prove to your own kingdom that you can fight this off. And like Viserys, for years now, because don't forget 2 years has passed, he's not been bothered about this at all. And even tell him to start, look, this is getting worse. The stuff is happening out there. Now, call this at the end of episode 2, because he's pissed off that Viserys didn't marry his daughter, his 11-year-old daughter, didn't marry her, and he picked that, Alison Hightower. So he storms off, and then at the end of it, you see him with Prince Damon, who's been sort of exiled out. And in episode 2, he's got a whore from one of the pillow houses, who's absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. He's got hair, and he nicked a dragon and a dragon egg as well, because he wants it to get her pregnant and put the dragon egg in the cot when the baby's born and all this. It's all pop tradition. And but to cut a long story short, in a big confrontation on a huge bridge, stone bridge, against her father's wishes, Rhaenyra and her dragon suddenly appear out of the low-hanging clouds, the smog, and fucking threaten the arse of Prince Daemon and his army of gold cloaks. And they get the egg back, and they really belittle him, something chronic. But Corlys now wants an alliance. Look, you and me, we're the forgotten ones. We've both been loyal to the king. We're from great families. You're the king's brother. My family is part of, you know, the whole thing. Is it his wife who's the king's sister? I forget these things. A lot of details, a lot of characters. It gets very confusing. And but I think his wife is the king's sister. She's the queen that never was. And but they want to marry the daughter off to try and keep the whole thing together. But because Viserys doesn't do this, he's now got an axe to grind, chip on his shoulder. So he goes to Prince Daemon, and look, you and me can work together. We can fight together and destroy the crab feeder. The crab feeder is called that because his enemies, he punishes anyone who survives all the attacks on their ships. He literally crucifies them to wooden stakes on the beach and lets the crabs eat them alive. And you see this, it's fucking horrible. And the tide's coming in and all that. Like, it's truly grotesque. And he's the one hammering the nails in as well. But so Corlys wants this alliance. We'll take him out, and that's only going to make it better for us to move in and be more powerful compared to Viserys. He will need us, and there'll come a point where we don't really need him, you know, and we could take over. There's all this sort of, you know, nefarious backstabbing and plotting and scheming going on, which you know and love from Game of Thrones. And this has it all, in absolute caboodles of it. So that's how it ended. So at the start of this episode, you've actually had some guy getting nailed on the beach. This horrible, absolutely massacre-rife beach full of bodies. It's like, literally, it's like D-Day, Normandy beaches. There's bodies everywhere, chaos and just wreckage and debris, burning ships, you know. And he's knocking the hell out of this guy, and he's going like, "God, just do it, just kill me now. My lord will kill you, my lord." This is the guy's being impaled, about to be crab eaten. He's spitting at him as well, like that. And then suddenly a big dragon comes up, and it's Daemon, Matt Smith, fucking riding this thing, like, comes in, and like, this guy getting impaled, he's like, see, you see? And he's laughing, save me, save. And this is the start of it, and the fucking dragon lands on him. he's going, save me, I'm here, my prince, save me. And this great big dragon fuck goes, just crushes into strawberry jam. You're like, oh my god. But then the dragon lays waste, you know, napalming everything in sight. But the crab feeder and his men retreat to their caves, and this is the thing. You can't defeat on these islands and their main headquarters. They're bedded into these deep caves, and there's fucking hundreds of these guys. It's a massive, massive army. But the crab feeder, folks, who is the crab feeder? Well, he's meant to be some kind of prince, or is it king of the triarchy? Again, I'm looking at my little notes there. The triarchy. And if you look at him, he's in the first 3 episodes. He has grayscale. Remember grayscale, which turns your skin to stone? He has grayscale on one arm. He also he's horribly disfigured. He's got one glassy eye and one normal eye. And his skin is clearly full of psoriasis and eczema and other afflictions. He's got a few little wisps of hair, but he wears a mask. And it's a damaged mask. It's one of it's the mask you saw in Game of Thrones, the Sons of the Harpy. It's one of those masks that he's wearing, and he's got a great backstory. But anyway, that's how it starts. We'll come on to this. That's how the episode starts. Prince Daemon saving the day, and the crab feeder heading back into the cave, so he can't get him. Damn it, he's rushed off again. Too late. So a plan is hatched that, look, we need to bring this guy out. Bring him out of the caves. You've got to bring him out, lure him out, because if they hide in the caves, you can't kill him. Now, throughout all this episode, you've got the High Council saying to Viserys, you're going to have to do something. Your brother is now fighting a war with Prince Corlys, and on your behalf. And he said, but we're not at war. They said, but you are at war. You don't realise it now, but this conflict, in the Stepstones, that is a war. That's only going to escalate, and other kingdoms, the 9 free cities or something like that, which the Triarchy is part of. Hope this makes sense to you, because I'm appealing to people who know Game of Thrones and know the whole, Song of Fire and Ice story, which I only know it from the TV shows. I do not know the books at all. But so I'm only going on what I've seen and things that I've read about it. But so if he doesn't do something about it soon, these 3 cities are going to just rise up, and that'll be a huge army to be reckoned with, and it could overwhelm King's Landing and Westeros. So got to do something about it. So only at the end he goes, well, all right, we'll do something. Right, send a note to my brother. And you get this. So at the end, sort of the end of this, the last quarter of this episode, all of Corlys' his son, and I think his cousin as well, they're all like arguing. All the men are beleaguered. What are we going to do? We need something to draw him out. We need something to make this happen. And then suddenly the emissaries of Viserys arrive, and Prince Daemon has arrived as well in his resplendent. I do love the armour that they're wearing in this, and Matt Smith wears this gorgeous helmet with a big horsehair plume on it, very distinctive, and he comes riding down his dragon, gets off that, comes down, it's on a big promontory, and they're having this big powwow. All the men are sitting there all bored and pissed off, all bruised and ripped up, God, it's going nowhere. And obviously Corlys and the others, we got to do something about this. And then Viserys' mob come up, we have a message for the Prince Daemon. So he takes this and he reads it, and it's basically saying, look, yeah, we're going to send you, I think 200 ships and 1,000 men or something like that. And Daemon just reads it, folds it back up again, gives it back to the messenger. And he's took his helmet off and he's put it on this big stone table thing, and then just goes, picks the helmet up and fucking destroys this messenger. I mean, I've heard don't shoot the messenger. Well, don't shoot him, but you can pick up your big fucking sharp jangly helmet and beat the living shit out of him. Just fucking crunches him, boosh, 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 and they're all pulling him off Jesus, what are you doing? It's not his fucking fault, is it? And the next thing you see, and this is wonderful, this is Matt Smith, Prince Daemon, rowing his own little boat, his own little row your boat across the narrow sea. And he arrives like a one-man allied invasion of Normandy beaches again. And he's there in his fucking armour, and he just strides up the beach, grabs a bit of white cloth off some body, literally, and puts it on the end of his fucking spear, waves it round. Whoa, it's a parlay, white flag, like that. And then all these men begin to come out the caves, and this fucking crab feeder's there, he's looking out as well with his one good eye, what's going on here? And then he takes out his sword. This is Prince Daemon, and on bended knee just proffers the sword it's epic looking thing. They're all on the caves and all that, on the ravines and the tops of these sort of cliffs, all with fucking arrows aimed at him. And so an envoy comes up there to take the sword off him. He's not giving in. Suddenly, Matt Smith owns the entire bloody show because he goes into one-man superhero mode. He fucking lays waste to dozens of these bastards, slicing, dicing, running through all the barricades and the debris and the bodies, fucking running, taking people down, stabbing. Oh, his sword comes away, got a dagger, I'll slit your throat instead, using bodies as a shield, picking up his sword again, taking out loads. The arrows come in, he's dodging all these, but a couple do hit him in his armour, but the one's got him, back of the leg and the calf. Shit, snaps all these out, but he's got to crawl into like a bit of cover, this overturned wagon or something. He's underneath that, fucking arrows are coming in. Next thing you know, there's absolutely the crab feeder just orders everybody. Prince Damon has killed probably about 100 people at this stage, but suddenly there's a multitude, and they're like ants. They're storming all the way across the beach from all these cave entrances, and there's just one man there, and they're all coming at him. What can he do? Gets his sword up and he's ready. Yeah, he's wounded, but he's ready to take him on. What do you think happens? Dragons! His dragon comes up again. They always save the day, don't need the dragons. Flambeing all these bastards. And of course the whole thing was a ruse to bring them out of the caves. And all of their army, Prince Corlys and all of the gold cloaks, they all come storming in. And it's a great big battle. Heads are getting scythed off. There's a great nice shot of just part of someone's scalp gets whoosh, like that. Just comes off away like that. Lots of blood splashing across the screen. Lots of blood, guts and gore. Wonderful stuff. Great. And the crab feeder sees all this and he's up his one eye, like, oh shit, and he retreats back into his cave. Prince Damon, already wounded, goes after him. The battle is won, at the end of the day. The crab feeder's men have all been butchered. They're all lying there, scythed and eviscerated. And suddenly out of the cave, and it's great the way it's shot as well, Prince Damon comes dragging half the body of the crab feeder. And he's basically been cut in half from like there across like that. And he's dragging him by the arm and like all the way down to the beach and just throws the body down, like, and you see it all crunched up and all that, like, and all little intestines are all unspooling out of it, like, and like, it's great, it's wonderful, but I was thinking, are you kidding me? You've built this crab feeder up to be a real threat to the crown, to the throne, and you've barely seen him in the 3 episodes that he's been in. You've barely seen him, and only at the end of this, he's been killed. He's been cut in half. So I started thinking, like, well, there must be like, I know what they're going to do, because there's a backstory to this guy. There's a lot more to this guy. So I thought, in the next episode, or maybe the one after that, you're going to have a flashback scene to what Matt Smith, Prince Damon, found him in the cave, and they probably had a discussion. One of these proper, like, there's a sword to your throat, but you're going to cackle some kind of chaos, and you don't know the history, you don't know what's coming for you, you think I'm bad, but there's something far worse, blah blah blah. But apparently not. I thought that's going to come, but I was reading about the guy that plays the crab feeder, Daniel Scott Smith, right? Another Smith. He never actually met Matt Smith, and I think on day one of him beginning to film, they took a body cast of him so they could do this half body for him, and they spent ages doing all his makeup and all that, and putting the helmet on, giving him little wisps of hair and all his fucking grayscale and all this kind of crap. And but I looked down and I saw my half body, and I said it's a very weird thing to see your own dead body, even the one that doesn't look like me because it's got all this kind of horrible diseased skin. But he said, so that final sequence, he said, I never saw Matt Smith. My scenes were all filmed separately from Matt Smith. So are we not going to get, excuse me, are we not going to get the backstory to the crab feeder, whose name is actually Kragas, something like that. We're not going to get his story. That's a bit of a shame, that, isn't it? But anyway, the House of the Dragon is really good. It's shaping up magnificently. I'm loving all the characters. I'm loving the intrigue, loving the whole sort of there's a much more Renaissance feel to this than there was to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was a lot grittier, a lot dirtier, a lot bawdier. We have had sex in House of the Dragon in episode 1. I think episode 2 there might have been a bit in that. I don't know, but this episode 3 there was none whatsoever, none. So I don't know if they're going to rein back on that, or you're going to get more of that. And also the violence is there, the gore is there, but again, it doesn't feel quite as on a par with the horrible things that happened in Game of Thrones. Now, that is not to say that we're not going to get all of that barbarity and really taboo breaking sort of, oh my god, I can't believe they're not going to do that. Oh god, they did. You know, there's so many things that happened in Game of Thrones, which we're not going to go into right now. But this could have all of that and more again. It just hasn't really done it so far. But it doesn't matter. I'm gripped by this. I'm gripped by the tragedy of it all. There's a pervading sense of sadness in these first 3 episodes, which, you know, it sounds bizarre. I'm loving the sadness of it. Oh, I'm really digging that. It makes me happy to see them all sad and upset. But the thing is, it does. It makes for a more gripping, involving narrative. If people are all happy-go-lucky, then there's no conflict, there's no dilemma. People have to have a chip on their shoulder. Things have to go wrong. They might be the best intentioned character of all, but things will happen to change their outlook. And this is what you're seeing. I have no idea where Rhaenyra is going to go with this. I just don't know. You can sense that she's going to get off with Sir Criston Cole, and she'll choose him as the one she wants to marry. And Viserys has said, "Oh, I'm going to do this. You know, whatever you choose the man you want," because they do come to sort of, you know, there's a grief sort of stricken moment, and he's just like, "I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. I'm stuck in this horrible thing when I've got to do tradition. I've got to follow etiquette. I've got to do all these things, but I just want you to be happy, and you are still going to be heir to the Iron Throne." And it's a wonderful little moment. Well, I say little, it's a powerful moment. So you think, well, clearly she's going to go off with Criston Cole, but that is doomed, isn't? You know it's doomed. Of course it is. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful watching it unfold. And I think I've said before that I'm actually enjoying the fact that this is episodic, as in they're not all available right now to watch, like all of season 1. You've got to wait a week to watch it. I mean, I like that because, you know, I know it's a drip feed, but it gives you a week to, you know, I'm looking forward to it, and then you get that, oh, it's on tonight, and it is worth it. Definitely, the build-up is great, and I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. Ramin Djawadi's score is fantastic again. The intro sequence now with the full 3D tour through the city map, the Westeros map, but with blood flowing all the way down it like a big cascade of gore, is wonderfully well done. And that main theme, but all the music's great. Visually, it's sumptuous. The CGI of the stags. Oh, I should have said as well, when Rhaenyra and Criston Cole, after they killed the boar, they ride out onto a huge sort of promontory, grassy knoll, overlooking the big encampment, and there's the King's Landing in the background, and the white-headed stag, which the king was meant to be hunting down and killing, but they didn't find it. It's there, and it just stands and stares at them, and it's a great moment. You're thinking, like, and Criston Cole does begin to unsheath his sword, but she goes, no, this is Rhaenyra, like, no, leave it. And the stag it sniffs the air. It does regard them balefully, and it turns around and it just bolts off into the woods. Quite a long shot actually. And although a lot of people have been really dissing the CG animals in the film Prey, I thought they were fine, to be honest. I did not have any issues with them at all. This looked great as well. It's clearly CG. Your brain tells you this, that no stag is going to act, according to a stage direction. It's not going to do that. But it's clearly a CG animal. But it looks totally in the moment, in the scene, and real and vivid. So your brain tells you it's not, but your eyes just go, it's a big stag running off. Yeah, no worries. Like seeing people with crabs eating them. They're not really being eaten by crabs. Having said that, there's a lot of prosthetic effects, like the half body of the crab feeder. That's a great effect. And when you see him dragging it, you think, oh no, what is that? You see him come out the cave, sort of like from behind. You're like, is he dragging? That's just half a body, isn't it? He's literally scythed him in two and dragged the top half out. But he's done it on an angle as well, so it's great. It's great. The last time I saw a good effect like that was in Interview with the Vampire, Neil Jordan's Interview with the Vampire, with Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Antonio Banderas, and Stephen Ray. And it's Stephen Ray that gets cut in half with a big scythe by Brad Pitt, and he just literally cuts him in half, but on an angle, and the two bits just go way like that, with fountains of gore. It doesn't last. It's 2 seconds tops, but it's a great shot though. Neil Jordan is now doing Marlowe. It's coming out December 2nd. Marlowe, Raymond Chandler's noir detective, Philip Marlowe, been played by Robert Mitchum and all the other people. But it's Liam Neeson is playing Marlowe, and it's a 1950s set thriller noir with dark overtones. Wow, can't wait for that. Liam Neeson actually acting in a film that's not just him as a one man, I've got certain skills, and all that. Not just taking 1, 2, 3, 4 or fucking whatever. It's actually a character based detective noir, and that's Neil Jordan, so can't wait for that. December 2nd this year. How did we go from House of the Dragon to Philip Marlowe? I don't know, but we did. So folks, that's my overview now of House of the Dragon. I think it's proceeding really, really well. I'm really enjoying it. The characters I think are great. There's not as many, I don't think, as in Game of Thrones. I don't think there is. But then again, with Game of Thrones, we got to know so many different side stories and other plot lines, some of which never even met with other ones. They were just their own little things. It's only 3 episodes in. It could become as huge and engrossing, as magnificently Leviathan as Game of Thrones, and it probably will. And I'm loving Rings of Power as well, but I'll come on to that separately. There's a video coming on Rings of Power because I'm very, very happy with that as well. But if you're a fantasy lover, this is a luxurious, indulgent time. You've got Rings of Power, Middle Earth again. You've got a return to Westeros with this, House of the Dragon. You've got Willow, the TV show, coming out soon as well. There's going to be another Witcher coming out. It's just, there's no stopping this. So it's a great time if you're into fantasy, sword and sorcery, and medieval stuff, historical romps. You're well catered for. There are other angles that I will have to cover with this. I'm not going to say the W word in this particular video, but sadly Rings of Power is utterly besieged. What's that phrase that coming out now? Review bombed. Fuck off. These terms. I'm going to discuss that in a separate video, and it's sickening now, to be honest. the way that the whole world seems to have turned, or rather not the whole world, but certain fractions of it just seem to want to hate. I know, another tagline there, haters gotta hate. Well, yes, they do, but it does paint them out to be very, very sad individuals, though, if you've got to pick faults in things. And these are people that swear blind, and I'm never going to watch it because I've heard this about it, oh, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. But you don't watch it, though. You come out with all this condemnation without actually watching the show or the movie in question. But you do, don't you, really? And I bet, really, you think, oh, you know, it's all right. But I've got my steadfast position. You know, I've set my stall out. I'm on my platform, my pedestal. I've got to say my piece. And they do. And they really are incredibly, horribly volatile about it. But, you know, a lot of it's bullshit, what they're coming out. It's just bullshit. Anyway, that's another video. Oh, you know, once I get started, I don't want to stop. Isn't that right, Mr. Kentucky Fudge? There he is. Look at him. Look at me, resplendent. And we did bring some swords out as well. And I was going to try and prop them up behind me, but I forgot. What have we got here? I have a huge collection of swords, as you know. I don't have a single sword from Game of Thrones. But here's the Kurgan sword from Highlander. I do love this sword. I've said before, it's the most ridiculous sword ever in practical terms. But it's such a wonderful bit of kit. Bloody huge. Absolutely huge. I mean, this is just stainless steel. It's just a pure, you know, wall hanger. But it's bloody heavy. And it's bloody strong, you know. It's like, whoa, you know. But I do love this sword. And the other one I brought down was, I'll show you this one. Again, I think you've seen this one before as well. This is the sword of Maximus from Gladiator. This is his cavalry sword, his spatha. It's longer than the gladius. It's longer than that because you're coming down from a horse, aren't you? But it's an absolute beauty. Look at that. It's so ornate. It's also very, very uncomfortable to wield because of the what would be, I mean, it's faux ivory, but it would have been ivory, which is actually stamped as well with the Emperor's seal as well there. But that's meant to provide a grip for your hand, but it's actually really uncomfortable. And then they did do this. They had ivory and bone hilts, and they were literally carved to give you a hand grip, but it's so uncomfortable, it's horrible. But yeah, it's a beautiful, I mean, this is a beautiful ornate version, but it's a proper replica of Maximus's sword from the opening of Gladiator. And here's the scabbard, which is equally as ornate and beautiful to behold. Yeah, the straps to keep it, because it was slung sort of over your shoulder, but it was hung down the side. It's a beauty and a half. There you go. So, swords as well. Folks, I have been always Shabby Kilt-Man. Please comment below and let me know what you think of House of the Dragon. Try to keep it without being volatile, because I've got no time for that. If you don't like it, just say I don't like it. But don't come out with any absolute W-word bullshit about it. I don't think with House of the Dragon there's that many complaints about it in that sort of sphere of things. I think it's more to do with, well, this isn't what George R.R. Martin wrote. You know, this isn't right. And it's boring. Damon doesn't do that. I can't comment on the actual books themselves. I don't know. But what I'm seeing, I'm loving. Every minute of it, in fact. I think it's just terrific stuff. Bravura, exciting, riveting, upsetting. It's definitely a sad story, and I'm sensing it's going to get sadder as well, but you know, anyway. Folks, please, in the meantime, in this ever medieval, fantastical in between time, please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic, and I am going to see yous all. What's the word again? Haters. So, as I was saying, you know, that girl you took out last night, I'm going to see her again.